Welcome back everybody, DestinysJesus here. In this video we talk about how to master the 5 different elements of the piece and also how to actually manually work on implementing everything that you learn in this video and any future videos as well, so you're actually implementing the things into your gameplay and also making sure that you're actually improving as well. Alright, without any further ado, let's get straight into this with the 4-step process to actually work on any new skills that you learn later on in this video. So first things first, let me run you through a really quick 4-step process that allows you to implement every single new thing that you can learn in this video and any future videos that you watch from anybody really quickly. A lot of people make videos on tips and tricks that actually show how you're going to go ahead and implement them into your own gameplay. So this 4-step process will make it really simple for you guys. Okay, so the first of the 4 steps, and this is the most important one, is just to make sure you're practicing the mechanic in a zero pressure environment where you can just focus on how you're actually doing it. Where you need to be looking, what buttons need to be pressing, and just focus on that. Obviously, if you're doing some kind of like full box control, you can do like a Raiders map with a bunch of different scenarios in there. What I'd recommend doing for most of the techniques is just coming into an open map like this and just practicing how you're actually going to go ahead and do it. So for full box thing through a box, just practice the actual mechanics of doing it on your own with a zero pressure, and then get the hang of doing it first try every time and you're not messing up, and then we can build from there and get into the point where you can do it in tournaments, which is steps 2, 3, and 4, which I'll show next. Now the next step is just to go ahead and do friendly realistic 1v1s. Now the third step to actually implementing something that you're trying to work on is going ahead and doing realistic either 2v2s or 3v3s. You could do 1v1s, but I recommend doing with slightly more players because you can practice fighting with realistic loot with hard mats as well being utilized, and you can practice a whole different bunch of scenarios. This is obviously also one of the best ways to practice in general, which is why I really recommend this. But again, it's just the fact that you're fighting in a much more realistic sense. It's a little bit more like arena or tournaments, and you can still work on doing actual techniques in the correct scenarios as you fight multiple different people at the same time as well. Okay, now the final step to actually implementing any new type of technique is just to go ahead and play solo arena with its repercussions if you die. Don't play duo or arena where you can get rezzed or rebooted or anything, right? Just play solo arena with its repercussions if you die, because you've wasted time and you've obviously wasted an easy game where you could have got a bunch of kills. And as soon as you're able to do that, then you'll actually have learned the new technique and you can start doing it tournaments and in the rest of your gameplay as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into some proper examples of the different elements of piece control that I know you guys have come to this video for. Okay, so the first and most simple element of the piece is the control. And the most important thing when it comes to controls, I understand that actually has to be your build and that you need to have placed it rather than just running up to somebody's box without any control in that situation. You can break up piece control into 2 different types. So either you've got the centerpiece, which is either a cone or a stair, very simply like that. Obviously you can have a lot of different edits and stuff to actually have that centerpiece control, or you can have the wall control. And the most simple form of piece control is just doing a wall replace on somebody and then getting the wall. Obviously you can get a lot more advanced with going for the back wall control, or you can go for the back wall control while cone sliding like that. And there's a lot of different variations like that. Okay, so the next part of getting a little bit better at piece controls, I understand that you need to get the top as well as you come onto the wall. So I would really recommend avoiding going for multiple different things like stairs and cones at the same time, or going for floors as well. Just focus on either going for the wall and the cone or the wall and the stair. And most of the times I would just opt for going for wall and cones. As you come onto somebody's wall and let's say you go ahead and grab it, obviously you can do something like that and get everything around them at the same time. But honestly, just for the beginning, just start focusing on not really placing the floors and just placing the cones in instead. So the easiest way to actually improve the first element of the piece, which is your piece control, is just as you go up to a wall, just think out what you can actually go ahead and grab inside their box. What are they missing? What type of control are missing? So right here, the person's missing both center pieces and the wall. So very simply, as you go into their box, you can go ahead and just do something like that and get a right hand peek. And the obvious goal of every single bit of piece control is to go ahead and try to line up a right hand peek shot after and hit 200 pounds. So next element of the piece is prediction. And the honest thing with prediction is really simple, and it's just about forcing the opponent into making a play and then you reading what that play is going to be ahead of time. So a very simple play like this would just be forcing a stare into their box. They've only got a couple ways they can rebox, and then catching them as they rebox like that. It's a really simple technique that's been around since like the start of this chapter that people have been doing for a long time. And there's a lot of other ways that you can do this, combining it with other types of piece later on in the video. You can also do this in a couple of different ways as you approach them, just understanding their rebox potential and how they can escape, and then how you can get that exit control them as they leave. So if I force a cone right here, they've only got one way they can go out, and you can go ahead and piece them up and roll over just like that. You can also do prediction piece, just replacing a bunch of walls on where somebody can rebox to. So as you go to set up on their box, you're going to place a bunch of walls at the same time, catch them with a cone, and then right and peek them afterwards as well. Okay, so what is long piece? This is kind of the third element of the piece, and it is getting pretty advanced at this point. So basically, long piece refers to how far you can place a building piece, and then also the fact that you can blueprint edit from a long distance away. So right here, a regular wall placement, this is kind of pushing the far end, would be about here to anywhere around here. But however, if you get better at a long piece and understand your crosshair placement, as you can see, looking straight up means that I'm going to be placing it much closer. But if I look in the correct spot, I can actually place walls much further away, and this is really useful for catching people as they're running away. You can do the exact same thing with cones, just understanding cone placements and the fact you can place cones really far away. And obviously, just getting the hang of that as well as blueprinting means you're long piecing people a lot more effectively. What are a couple good examples of this? So first of all, just catching people as they're going up. As you can see here, I'm standing on a cone. Oftentimes you can do a long piece like that, get a load of extra wall control on somebody as they're going out, just by understanding the building grid properly and understanding your crosshair placement as well. As you can see, I'm chasing someone reboxing, and if I understand long piece and where to look properly, as you can see here, instead of placing a wall right in the front, I can actually place a wall from an extremely long distance on somebody, just like that. And oftentimes if you do this in game and then blueprint edit, you'll catch somebody completely off guard right afterwards. One really important thing to understand is the fact that walls have a really extended placement as well as cones. As you approach somebody's box and you want to go for a cone, oftentimes you can get a lot of cone control on them just by looking through in the correct spot like that. You can see I can get that cone the whole way over there. And sometimes this is really useful if you're team fighting in trios as well. You can also use long piece defensively, which oftentimes is really useful for it as well. Just understanding how you can place walls outside of your box like that. And oftentimes from there you can go for an edit and then go for a shot on a right hand peak as well. So it works really usefully, especially as you're reboxing, making space. What you can go ahead and do is just move back, make sure you've got the wall blueprinted, so it's got the white owl like there, and then you can go for a shot and get killed right afterwards as well. Okay, so the fourth element of the piece is the through box piece. There's two main techniques for this. So the first one is any type of Houdini cone. Well, all you do to place a cone in their box is just look below just like that, and you very simply place a cone in their box. And then from there, obviously, you can go for piece control like that and catch them off guard as they drop down and get the backwards as well, oftentimes as well, to get a shot in. You can also do this as you just approach somebody's box from any type of peak. So right here, as you're running on somebody's wall, imagine their box up right there. You just get a cone and then you go for the wall place and they're already forced. You can obviously combine this with a load of different other types of techniques as well. As you get the cone slide in their box on them like that, realize they're probably going to rebox downwards or they're probably going to rebox sideways and catch them off as they run out as well. Now the next technique is really useful to do as well. Oftentimes you shouldn't do this in somebody's full HP though. So as you go ahead and approach the wall, you can face something in it just by understanding that your right hand with the pencil out needs to be placed and looking through the wall as you crouch, just like that. So you can see I faced a cone in there. Obviously I can go for a load of different prediction piece, or just go for the wall take and get a pump on them at the same time. You can also do this technique with stairs. As you're approaching this wall, just go ahead and crouch like that, and you'll place a stair in the box. Obviously, it just takes a little bit of practice. And you can also do this a little bit more advanced. As you approach somebody's box like this, you can get the cone in like that, and you can also get the back wall control through the wall, just like that, which is really useful to do. Oftentimes, when somebody's in a 2-by-1, you can go ahead and approach and get the wall control on them to catch them off and then limit them into a 1-by-1, and then from there go for a shot without ever exposing yourself. And it's really useful to do, and will catch people off guard in arena and in tournaments as well the whole time. It's also worth noting with the through box control that you don't need to be doing it from this left hand side like a lot of people think. You can do it from the right hand side of a box just like that. And also you can go ahead and do it from the top of the box just like this. If you're ever on a stair, you can place a stair in and then hit a little quick shift on somebody. Going for a Houdini cone while you're fighting in the mid game is so useful because as you can see right here, it forces them from not being able to go downwards since they're coned off underneath, and they also can't go upwards without jumping up really awkwardly. So they're basically forced to run out on your layer, and oftentimes you can just predict where they're going to go and get a really free kill from it. Now the Houdini cone pretty much works in any situation in game as long as you make sure that you look for the correct opportunity to do it, especially when somebody's on the lower ground layers. As you can see here, you can pretty much always slide a cone through as long as the ground isn't completely flat. You'll be able to slide a cone through just like that, and then you get a really simple elim just by pressuring and going for the wall replace. So here's a bunch of different examples of different types of piece control in realistics. So as you can see here, this first example is just a bunch of things in terms of long piece. You can see here getting the cone extended around the corner, and this last one was just getting the through box control. As you can see right there, I've got my building grid out placed on my wall, and I'm placing it through this other wall, and oftentimes you'll be able to catch somebody out, especially if you're building in the same material type as them. If you build a wall right there and then they stay in that original box, as you break through, they won't really expect you to have that wall control and you can get a really free kill. Okay, so aeronautical, this is one that confused a lot of people. It's the last element of the piece at the moment, since there's not really that many new techniques that you need to learn, and it basically revolves around trying to catch somebody who's in the air, either with a cow or the launch pad. Oftentimes, if you're able to do this successfully during an end game, you get the free for your life, because everyone knows people running around with cows are pretty much always awful, and they've always got max mats as well. It's the easiest way to actually catch somebody who is using a cow or in a launch pad end game is just to predict where they're going to go, so use a bit of prediction piece, and then make sure that you cone them immediately, as well as get the wall control at the same time.